Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Hector Aguilar of Aguilar Realty Group. I'm here with our associate, Ben, your agent, one of our buyer's agent here with Team Aguilar Realty Group. Today, we wanted to discuss with you going over the physical inspection report. So I know Ben's extremely excited because, he's got his first purchase agreement under contract. And we also did the physical inspection on this property and wanted to review it with Ben and see, kind of share with you guys what the next steps are and how we use that physical inspection report on behalf of the buyer with regards to the property. So, Ben, tell me a little bit about your experience that you had during the physical inspection this past Friday at this property.
It was actually really fun, getting to meet the inspector right in the beginning.
I believe you're muted, Ben.
Oh, I am? Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
Let's see. How about there, Ben? Can I hear you now?
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, no, I still can't hear you. You're muted.
Huh. It's weird.
I know Ben can. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. It was my mistake. I had my volume down. So go ahead, Ben. Sorry about that.
Okay. No worries.
Learning to do these StreamYards and live videos, I'm not a pro at it. We're getting better with it week after week. And, we're going to have some technical difficulties, but, it wouldn't be a live video if we didn't have any challenges. So let's go ahead and start over. Ben, okay. So share with me how your experience at the physical inspection went this past week.
So yeah, it's really fun. Like I was saying, basically just you meet the inspector. He goes over all the different details in the house, straight, cool stuff. As we can see the house, he went inside, went up on the roof, showed me about the water, how the flow of the water, how the windows are good, anything swinging, anything like that. So just, different stuff in the house. So it was pretty cool to see.
Right on. I know typically, so a physical inspector is going to go to a property and he's going to go through the property and he's going to check everything from regards to like electrical, plumbing. They're going to jump on the roof. They're going to get into the attic. They're going to check all the power outlets. They're going to pretty much give you a grading on the condition of the property and what the findings might be. Now, it's not an extremely detailed physical inspection. And what do I mean by that is that they're a certified inspection company. They go through a series of trainings as to what to look for in homes and things of that nature, but they're not licensed contractors. So if you wanted a more detailed report on some of the findings, for example, if you wanted a more detailed roof inspection, well, you're going to need to order as a buyer a licensed roofer to inspect the roof.
Right.
Same thing with an electrician. Like if you needed a licensed contractor to go out there, an electrician contractor to check, let's say the panels or maybe more detailed information with regards to electrical, you're going to have to get a licensed electrician to go do that. Same thing with the plumber. If you wanted, let's say a camera scope, or you wanted to see the condition of the plumbing, then you would need to come and order a licensed plumber to come and check out the property. So a physical inspection typically is done by a certified inspector who has received training and to give you an idea of what the condition of the property is, right? They're not licensed general contractors, but they are very experienced. The companies that we refer to our clients, we typically hand out 2 or 3 different companies that we work with. I've worked with them in the past. They're very, very detailed, and they explain to the client at the end of the physical inspection typically what findings they might have, and maybe not all the findings, but the findings of concern.
Right.
So I'm hoping that that's what he talked to you about, and also our buyer clients, Victor Moreda, correct?
Yeah, it was great to see that there was a detailed report on areas that you're telling that they have concerns or want to educate the client on, and there were a couple of minor fixes and stuff like that. Would you share with me what are those steps if the client finds out all these stuff on the report and things of that nature?
So one of the things that, we also had an opportunity this past Monday, because the inspection was Friday. We received the inspection report over the weekend. And then on Monday, we had the opportunity to sit with our clients and review the inspection with them and some of those findings. So I'm going to go ahead and share the report with you in a minute. So that we can see it here. And I'm going to go ahead and hide this real quick so we have a better view of the report. So typically, you're going to get a report with the front of the picture, the property that they're inspecting, the date and time it was inspected, a little bit of information about the property as far as the age of the home and the square footage, and the weather conditions as well. So what I like about the inspection companies that I utilize is that they typically will deliver a report within 24 hours in a digital format.
Yes.
And what I particularly like is they have a dedicated page or two of the areas of concern, right? The areas that they feel like they're going to want to point out to a consumer, right?
Right.
So let me get there now, and I apologize. I'm sharing my screen with you guys, and sometimes it's a little slow because we're sharing on the Zoom and on the Facebook Live, and we're also streaming this to our YouTube channel. So here's a summary page. As you can see, there are some items that were of concern, and we reviewed them with our client. And one of the things that I did want to disclose, Ben, to you and to other agents that are new to the business or even buyers that are looking at their physical inspection report is you got to remember that every home is going to have some condition, right?
Right.
I've been around real estate for a long time, and even new homes have issues. Maybe a faulty wiring, maybe a GFCI breaker that wasn't wired properly, things of that nature. So you have to keep an open mind that you're not going to find the perfect home. And the purpose of the physical inspection is to give you an opportunity as a buyer to know what you're getting into, right? So it's not necessarily a tool for you to cancel the contract, but it's necessarily in the state of California, they require either that you do a physical inspection or that you waive your physical inspection, right? But you have to do that in writing. We always recommend that clients get a physical inspection. So as you can see, there were a few things here on this report that you and I had the opportunity to sit with Victor Moreda and kind of go over, right? And as we go through it, there were very minor things that we saw, maybe some cracked windows, maybe there was, some drainage. There was a little bit of issues with some missing shingles, talked about maybe like vegetation touching the roof, some roof flashing, a spark arrestor. Very minor things. So
can you tell the audience when normally when is an inspection done, Hector?
Well, as we discussed last week in our, once you got your offer accepted, next steps is you want to order your physical inspection as soon as possible. Typically you have, here in the state of California, you have 17 days to do all your physical inspections and your buyer investigation rights. In this market, which is a super seller market, some of those are being negotiated down to as little as 10 days. So it's incredibly important for you to schedule that right away. Like I said, we hand out 2 or 3 different company names that you can select from, or you can choose your own, right? As a buyer, you're not necessarily forced to have to use any of the companies that we refer you to or that we provide you. But it's important to do it right away. And the reason why is because the purpose of the physical inspection is not only to find the condition of the property, but to also discover any major issues that the property might have. And what are major issues? For example, if there's evidence that the roof has massive leaking or the age of the roof is very deteriorated, maybe discover that, the plumbing is shot. And what do I mean by shot? That it's plugged up, that, that there's issues with water pressure. Maybe to discover that maybe the electrical systems are maybe outdated or damaged, or maybe that they have 2 or 3 plugs into one breaker. So those are what we call, maybe there's a crack in the foundation. So that's what you do your physical inspection for, because those items, those major items like roof, maybe plumbing, electrical, or foundation, could be potential items that either as a buyer you're willing to accept and take on, or you may say, hey, you know what, this property isn't for me. I'm going to go ahead and exercise my right to cancel based on my contingency, and you submit a cancellation contract, and then you move on to find another property. So that's kind of what the idea behind the physical inspection is.
What is? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, so once we find this report, we go over it with the client, what would be the next step?
So I'm going to share the screen once again.
And also, while you're sharing the screen, you're mentioning sometimes new home constructions aren't always the best condition. Now, is it up to the buyer?
Well, it's not so much that they're not in the best condition. They're new homes, so they're brand new. However, there have been situations where we discover that the contractors or the labor personnel that built the property might have missed something. They might have missed a connection, or something's wrong with the AC, and it happens. Even if it's a new construction, there's human error involved, and so it gives you the opportunity to discover that and be able to ask the builder to make these corrections before you close. Now, in this particular case, with a resale property, like I said before, there's going to be items that you're going to discover, right?
Right.
So after you ask the question as to what's the next step after we review the document or the physical inspection with the buyer, and what it gives us is an opportunity to request repairs for these said items that we found. Now, first and foremost, in the state of California, we have minimum health and safety requirements, and if you notice, and what are those? Those are the smoke detectors, the carbon monoxide detectors, and a working heater. That's a must in the state of California. So as you can see, there was some missing smoke detectors. The carbon monoxide detector did not operate. And it seemed like let me go to it here.
I don't think there was any heater.
I think the heater was maybe non-operational. It looked like it had it was worn and torn, if I remember correctly.
Right there.
Let me check.
You passed it.
I passed it, okay.
Is it that one?
Heating. So it looks like the unit is old, deteriorated, nearing an end of useful life. So we're going to recommend further evaluation. So in this particular case, this will give us an opportunity to put together a request for repairs to address these three main things, and maybe a couple others that we noted in the report. So that's what the next step is we need to invest some time in preparing a request for repairs on behalf of the buyer, addressing those main issues that we discussed with our buyer, and then submitting it to the seller's broker. In doing so, the seller's broker will then in turn present it to the seller, and the seller has three options. Okay, number one is, the truth is the seller is not obligated to do any of the repairs with the exception of healthy and safety issues, right?
Right.
And most buyers in California aren't aware that in Section 11 of their California Real Estate Purchase Agreement, it states that the property is being sold in as-is condition.
Right.
Maybe that's something we can review at a later training, but as-is condition. So, but it is subject to buyer's investigations and requests thereof. Okay, requests for repairs. But the truth is that the seller has three options. Okay, and those three options are the following. Number one, the seller can decide, hey, I'm not going to do any of your repairs. Okay. Number two, the seller can accept to do some of the repairs and dictate exceptions. Or the seller can say, I'll go ahead and take care of all the repairs that you requested. Or a final option could be, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do any other repairs, but I'm willing to offer you a credit to offset some of those repairs that are required. So those are the 3 or 4 different options that the seller has. Obviously, since we represent the buyer, we're hoping that the seller will respond in kind and do at least the minimum repairs that the state requires, which is the smoke detector, the carbon monoxide detector, and the wall heater to have it serviced. So that's kind of what the next step is. Once the seller's broker and the seller review our request, they are going to respond to us, either accepting our request for repairs, or they can respond to us in what's called a seller response to request for repairs. And once we get that, then we'll sit with our buyer, go over it with them, and we'll allow them to decide if that's acceptable to them or not. And then we take the next step. In most cases, we come to a mutual agreement. And then at that point, the buyer would remove their physical inspection contingency unless the buyer decides they want more specific inspections like electrician, roofer, or plumber.
Right. Okay.
Right? So that's kind of like the steps that they would take once we review the physical inspection report and we determine what repairs we want to request, and then get a seller response at the very end. So in a nutshell, that's what's next. You get your physical inspection back. You sit with your client and review it, going over the highlighted concerns that the inspector highlighted in his reports.
Okay.
You use that to work up your request for repairs based on those findings.
Okay.
And then we wait for the seller to respond in kind. And once we get his response, then we can sit with our client and we can advise them as to what steps they can take next.
Okay. And so as you guys are watching live right now on Facebook or YouTube, if you have any questions like I did, feel free, please leave the comment below. Let us know that you rewatched it, of course, too. And, make sure you give a like, YouTube, what's your YouTube, Hector? So if they want to rewatch
YouTube is
it.
going to be under Hector Aguilar, RE, which stands for Hector Aguilar Real Estate. And you can also find us on our Facebook profile at Hector Aguilar RE as well. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to either email us, call us, text us, or DM us. Reach out in every way that you can, and we'll be sure to make sure that we return your call and answer any questions that you might have.
Perfect. Awesome.
All right.
And what should they tune in for the next week?
I think next week what we'll do is we'll go over an actual request for repairs and kind of detail how we fill it out and then the expectations that we have as far as the seller responding. So we'll stay tuned for next Wednesday, and that'll be our next training.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Once again, Hector Aguilar and Ben of Ben Your Agent with the Aguilar Realty Group.
Yes.
Hope that we bring you some valuable information, and that if you have any questions or if you're in the market to buy or sell a real estate property here in Southern California, that we might be your broker of choice, right?
Yes, or invest. Reach out to us.
Or invest as well. So thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to being on with you again next Wednesday. Take care and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Ben. Talk to you later.
Bye.